Today, we get to hear the adventures of Antigoni Kaliontzopoulou. She is a highly cited biologist, currently at the University of Barcelona, who develops the tools called phylogenetic comparative methods to map and understand evolution of traits across the tree of life. And she uses these tools extensively to understand the function and ecological significance of the shapes of different types of animals. Lizards, more lizards, but also amphibians, birds, primates, and even scorpions. As she is native to and focuses on the Mediterranean area, I imagine that's where most of the stories we will hear today play out. So, welcome, Antigoni.
Hi, nice to be here.
So, you develop these state-of-the-art methods, which are, really computational and way over my head. But of course, you also spend a lot of time in the field. So, which of those things do you prefer?
Well, I don't know how to answer that because I really like both. So one is more, I guess I take it like as it comes. So one is for the winter when you can't really chase lizards in the Mediterranean because they
Yeah,
are
of
sleeping
course.
and they are inactive. So I make the best of that to be on my computer and program and do the analytical part. And
Uh-huh.
then I really like in the spring and in the beginning of summer when lizards are running around, I really like being out there chasing them. So
So,
um,
yeah, so the spring is already coming. So, are you going somewhere this year?
Thursday, tomorrow, after tomorrow. So I'm
Oh, wow.
starting in a while. I'll start exploring. So I moved to Barcelona relatively recently. So I'll start exploring the area around. And we have a project here with a colleague. So on Thursday, we're going to inspect the populations and set up sampling points and see what we're going to do and plan
Okay,
the
awesome. So that's the first time around Barcelona that you go chasing lizards there, or
Now, since I'm here now, because I did my PhD here, so I did
yeah,
some sampling back in the day.
yeah.
But since I've been here working in the university, yeah, it's one of my first activities nearby. So I had been in Girona, up the Catalan coast, and I'm trying to develop a project there. But here, very close to the city, it's the first time, and it's very interesting because it's more humanized places, so we can study how lizards interact with humans, and
Yeah, that's very
you can ask
necessary.
some interesting things and figure out some interesting stuff.
Humans are everywhere. So, but are you going to take these lizards then into the lab, or what's going to happen?
Eventually we are. So this is a
Hmm.
project where we are going to study the effect that cat populations have on them because people
Ah,
like cats and they
yes,
feed them a lot. And I like cats as well, but they become a problem for reptiles and for other animals
absolutely.
when they're in huge populations. So we're going to study that and we'll take the lizards to the lab to try to to measure their morphology and see if they have what kind of responses they have to the cats and compare the ones that live with cats versus the other ones that live without cats and see if we can find differences in their physical condition and on how they respond to cats, etc. So
Oh, very
should
cool.
be an interesting project. Yeah.
So more lizards in the lab.
Yeah.
Now, you said you sometimes have a few mishaps in the lab with lizards,
Yeah, that
right?
happens. Yeah, that happens
What happened
sometimes.
there?
I mean, you're not it's not supposed to happen. That's not what you want to happen, but it does happen sometimes because I mean,
Mm,
these are small lizards, and luckily, because I like this combination of fieldwork and of analysis, of statistical analysis, you're very happy when you have lots of lizards in your lab. So you want high numbers of lizards so that you can
mhm.
make robust inferences and make conclusions. But then that means that you have to house and take care of lots of animals in the lab. And well, I mean, lizards are very good at escaping from us. That's how they
They're
survive,
fast, yeah.
very fast, and they're very active and they're sneaky sometimes.
And you have
So
to be careful, right? Because otherwise you'll break off their tail. And
yeah, you have to be careful handling them, and because they have this mechanism of tail autotomy that
mm,
they release the tail when trying to run from you. But they're very good at escaping from little boxes. So if you're not careful, especially early on when you plan things and you are handling lots of lizards at the same time, if you're not careful, I've had more than one occasion where lizards may escape and then you start chasing them around the room and there
oh,
are people trying to find them and then depending on the complexity of the room, they can hide or
yeah.
can go out, or they can start climbing in weird places. You might not find them, and normally, so what you would do is that you keep them in the place where they're from, so you don't take populations from one place to the other.
Of course.
Not to mix up populations, but still, when they escape, you start looking for them, and we've had funny moments with lizards climbing in curtains or finding them up there suddenly, and like looking to find them and where they are, and yeah, it's
Well, and after you catch them, can you still use them, or are they too tired then, and you have to give them a
well,
rest or something?
you have to consider, but normally they have some rest period anyway, and we in the lab they're like in a 5-star hotel normally, so we make sure that the conditions are very well and they have plenty of water, and normally we don't feed them, so it's just not to influence the experiments, but they have good heating conditions, so hopefully you put them in a box and you leave them there, and then you can evaluate, because you can see if the animal is behaving as normal or not. So normally we evaluate depending on the situation, and also how many lizards we have. If we already have another 50, it's fine to not use one. But
Yeah. Wow, it's that many lizards. Wow, if that would escape 50
yeah,
lizards,
there
that
are
would
many.
be
Sometimes there are many lizards in the lab, and there might be one species or more. So weird things start happening, especially when you're working with students that they're not sure what species they're handling. It can become quite interesting.
Yeah, that's the trouble. Everybody has to make their own mistakes, right? So every student has to have a lizard escape at least once.
That's how you learn, and it's also very funny to see them when you're in a lab and it has like those plastic floors, that they're like have this kind of sticky, well, not sticky, slippery texture. The lizards can't really run on them, so sometimes you have a lizard escape and it will jump and it starts doing like that because it thinks that it will escape, and it just moves in the same place because they don't have grip to really run.
Yeah.
You have to jump and catch them without breaking the tail, etc. Yeah.
So what's the trick to that? How do you catch them without breaking the tail?
Being very careful. I mean, it's a matter of experience. It's a matter of trying. In many cases, when you start, if you catch them by hand, when you start, you tend to break some tails. Fortunately, it's sad when that happens, because
they grow back, right?
Yeah, they grow back, and then you try to take care of the animals such that they're in a good condition before you release them back to the field, because we always take the animals back to the field. So we do the experiments and then we take them back home so they can tell their experiences in the crazy scientist's lab. But yeah, I mean, normally in the field we catch them with fishing rods, so that's less invasive. You can't break a tail with that, so it's a very efficient method also, because it's easier to handle. So we make a loop on a fishing rod and then we kind of fish them.
I
When
had
you
the
catch
pleasure
them
of
by
helping
hand,
you with
it's more
that.
tricky. When you catch them by hand, you just have to go for the body of the animal and be soft enough but firm enough, and well, you have to know.
Dangerous. Well,
For the lizards.
You have plenty of lizard experience, so
Yeah, I mean, now it's easy. Now it has been ages since I last broke a tail, but at the beginning, when you start learning, it happens. As you say, you have to make your mistakes in order to learn. I mean, and it's like you try to do it with the least influence on the lizard, with the least impact, but yeah.
And so now you have much less lizards running around your lab, I imagine.
Right now, yes, but let's see. Hopefully, in the near future, I can get some funding, which I've asked for, and start having many lizards again.
Oh, cool. I want to see that. I'll drop by at some point and see the lizard lab.
You're very invited to do that.
And well, I've helped you out with catching lizards at some points in some projects way in the past. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you remember we had lots of lizards when we were doing these biting experiments.
Big ones. But also there, I think the cats have had some impact, because that population now is...
probably.
Yeah,
I think the lizards are suffering all over the place. I mean, there are some famous cases like the ones of the giant lizards in the Canary Islands, which were very affected by, I mean, there were entire species extinct because of the cats.
Yeah,
and again, I like cats. I just think that it's nice to have them in a house, sterilized and under control, for be with them, but not like out in the wild and
murdering lizards.
Well,
Yeah.
lizards, birds, bats,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, many different things. Yeah.
Mm, 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 mm. And in the field, you also have some escapes or
Well,
narrow
in the field
thing.
you have lots of escapes, but you learn how to get along with that. Actually, we have like in very frequently in my team we have like competitions of who will catch the highest number of lizards. So when you go to the field, of course, it's normal that lizards escape. That's what they do. So you have to learn also how to move in the field, and then it's like, oh, I caught 15 and you only got 12, and uh, but at the same time, it's nice because like people work together. So at least when you don't catch lizards, you're not so depressed because other people did. So it's always good to have a team and go with other people.
Yeah, you always have a
Uh,
nice group of people with you.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
a
yeah.
good challenge. It's funny to challenge each other and say, hey, who will catch the most lizards today? So.
And it's also nice work because, well, you always have to go in a sunny morning. So not so bad.
Completely. Lizard field work for me is the best, and especially lizard field work. I mean, yeah, I do feel envy sometimes for people that work in the tropics or in tropical islands, but I really like the Mediterranean. I've had some very nice field experience in the Mediterranean, visiting islands. So I've worked a lot with this genus of lizards that is distributed, the wall lizards that are distributed around all the Mediterranean. And in a big project, we were visiting every single country, and then you have every single country in the Mediterranean, and then you have species that are endemic to islands. In Greece, you have some that are like in one tiny little rock. Where
Yeah.
actually I had a colleague who thought, so this is a very tiny island in halfway between the continent and the island of Crete. And
Yeah.
there is one species that is endemic to that island, and it's only there. It's a really tiny island. It's about, I think, 2 kilometers across. So we were 6 people sampling there, and we could cross like several times around the island. And when we were visiting, we were planning. So that was a big campaign. In 3 weeks, we did like the whole country. We sampled about 8 species, I think. So it was very
Okay. Wow.
easy. We were jumping from one place to the other. And I had everything in my head, of course, because I had planned the campaign and I know the species, etc. And there were colleagues with us that didn't know all the details, and they were accompanying us and helping out and doing their own thing, but didn't follow the lizard scheme exactly. So one day, this colleague of mine was saying, so now we have to drive to the south of the Peloponnese, and we'll take the boat, and we go to this big island, and then we go to that small islet that we have this unique species of lizard that only exists there, and it's amazing. And I was super enthusiastic.
Yeah.
He was like, but wait, he was looking at the map, and he was like, this islet looks really small. How are we going to take the car there? And I was like, no, we're not taking the car there. We're going by boat because it's a tiny rock. I mean, you have to. So like every kind of misunderstanding with these small places, but you get to visit those places that they're super unique, and
that must be amazing. I mean, is there even a regular boat service to that island?
No. We went with a colleague from the Natural History Museum of Crete. They have a boat, so they have their own boat because they do field work in islands, and I worked with them in my undergraduate studies because I did my undergrad there. So I asked him for help, and he went up to the big island, and we met there with the car. We took the car to the big island, and then we went with this private jet boat to the small islet because no one goes there. No one lives there. It's only biologists go there. So it's
and no cats. So they're
no
doing
cats.
well.
No. There are seagulls though. There are seagulls. Seagulls are a pain also when you're sampling small islets. Seagulls are terrible. They attack you.
Why?
Because in those small islets, if they have, especially if they have nests, and if you coincide with the reproductive period and they have eggs, they're insane. They attack like crazy. They're really scary. They're
big. Yeah.
Yeah, they're big and they're a challenge. I mean, I was really scared of them. It was a bit like, I don't know, Hitchcock movie. I mean, I don't like seagulls. I mean, I like to see them far away, but
you're on a tiny, tiny uninhabited island being attacked by seagulls trying to catch tiny lizards that are super fast. Okay, that's not.
And it's super fun. It's amazing. It's super. I mean, it's the best. It's like fieldwork. Yeah, I mean, I like programming and method development, but yeah, fieldwork is amazing. It's so much fun. I mean,
And as I said, with the lizards, you certainly doing better field work than the amphibian people have to wait for rain and night. And
Yeah, I think I chose well, actually, because at the beginning, like back when I started working with animals, I really wanted to do something like natural history related and ecology related. And I went to the Natural History Museum in Crete, where this colleague came from that I told you about, with the boat. And I asked them what projects they had. I was an undergrad, and they said, "Oh, we are doing something with bats, and then you could do something with lizards." And I was like, bats are super interesting. I mean, they're amazing animals. But then again, in the middle of the night, going out, putting nets, try to catch them, etc. I was like, yeah, no, I'll take the lizards. I'll take the sunny side of life. So.
And you stuck with them.
Yeah, I'm stuck with them. I have no problem being stuck with them. I mean, I really like them. I think they're really fun.
Yeah.
You can ask some very nice questions. Lots of diversity. They do lots of different things, and they are in very nice places normally. I mean,
yeah, and you've been all around the Mediterranean. So you've been to Portugal because that's where you previously worked, and then I imagine Spain now, Greece, obviously. Where else have you been chasing
well, I mean,
lizards?
I've been in many places. I mean, Italy and the islands of Italy also.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Everywhere. So Sardinia and Corsica are also very interesting. They have endemic species as well, and they have some really funky geckos. We have very funny towpads.
Yes.
And they do very funny things. Morocco was very interesting. Like Morocco, we started going there when I moved to Portugal during my PhD. So like, I'm not sure I want to count, but it was something like 20 years ago, more or less. And that was super interesting because it was like I landed to the research center where we met. I was really young and super enthusiastic, and I finally had the PhD grant to do my own thing, and I was super happy about it and super like enthusiastic with the whole experience. And then there was these three researchers that I really knew about them because they were they were quite well known in the field of European and North African herpetology, and they were doing really nice work together.
At least James, who's already been on the podcast, of course. Yeah.
One is James, there's Miguel, and Carlos.
And Carlos has also been on the podcast. I still need to ask Miguel, but
yeah. So and these are like a bit. I mean, they're not that old, but they are scientifically speaking the generation before me. So Miguel was my supervisor, and they were all doing different things, and they were collaborating and doing these trips to Morocco, which were super famous in the institution back then, because back then the groups were not that big, so it was like everyone was going together, and it was like a dream for me. I was 21 and they said, "Oh, do you want to come to Morocco and you can do something for your thesis?" And for me it was like, whoa, I wouldn't sleep for days before going there, and it was incredible to be included in that. And I was planning what we were going to do, and then of course your enthusiasm goes through the roof, and I spent half of the trip not sleeping because we would go to a place and catch lizards, and everyone would have fun catching lizards for me. Then I would go like, okay, here you go, and they would land 50 lizards on my lap, and I would have to measure them and take photographs and take samples and do everything with them, or the processing, which takes some hours. I mean, now I'm more fluent with it, but back then I took longer to do everything, handling the lizards, not cutting the tails, not
and it's a live lizard, right? That you're trying to measure the toe length.
It doesn't like what you're doing with it, so it's moving and it's resisting. And I mean, we were with in some of those trips. There was another colleague that is more or less my age, and he was doing his PhD back then, and he was measuring color reflectance. So he had this really fancy machine, and he would measure the reflectance of UV and different kinds of different wavelengths of light to quantify what the lizards would see. We had to take the data for our projects, and it would take forever. So we would be up until 5 o'clock in the morning, maybe. And then the guys were sleeping, everyone else was sleeping, and they would wake up at 6 o'clock and say, "Okay, let's go now, let's go to the field to catch more lizards." And we're completely destroyed. I mean, we're like for 4 or 5 days in a row. So once I just slept, I was with James in the field measuring animals. He was taking notes, and I literally slept with a lizard
Oh.
So I was sitting there measuring the lizards, and then James is like, Antigoni, I think you should stop that. I think you need a break. Maybe we will keep the lizards and continue tomorrow because it was like,
Oh,
I was just, yeah.
that's amazing. 21, falling
Yeah,
asleep.
it was so much fun though. I mean, I
Yeah.
wouldn't for the life of me do that now. Stay up until 5 o'clock measuring lizards. Well, probably I would if it were
Yeah.
necessary.
You can make
Probably I would.
you
But,
can make your students stay up for you now.
well, no, yeah, but you stay with them and I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah. No, normally if it is me planning, I just try to plan with more time so that you can get some sleep and then you continue measuring the lizards and
Yeah. So that was also partly your own enthusiasm, and maybe you underestimated how much work it was that when you were
yeah, it was
planning it.
I think I underestimated the work, and then those were campaigns that because the funding was not exactly plenty, we would condense, and that was super efficient. So that team was amazing. In like, you would consider how much data would get out of those trips. Like in 3 weeks, there were 3 big teams with several students. So it was me and several other students getting data, and it was super efficient, but it was very intensive. So it was. And we do that a lot just to optimize the resources we have because biodiversity, unfortunately, does not have lots of money put on it.
Yeah.
In many cases, we try to optimize and we make these campaigns super dense, and we have to we run on a very tight schedule, or we run on a schedule that is just day and night. So once with Daniele in Sardinia, we were working with my lizards in the day and with those geckos I was mentioning before, Euleptes,
Yeah.
by night. So we were sampling 20 hours per day, basically. So we were
Oof.
doing things around the clock. And I mean, yeah, you can do that for some days, but it's
Yes. At some
not
point, you're
sustainable. Yeah.
destroyed. But very effective, as you say, and you can go a long way on little money. So
Yeah, and when you
yeah.
do it for a short time and with a good team, it's fun. I mean, it's intensive, but it's fun. And you don't do that for months in a row, but like you can take it for some time, and then it's very productive. You feel it feels very very good. And the good thing about the Mediterranean is that in some times of the year, in the middle of the day, you cannot work with lizards because they are super active, or they just get inactive because it's so warm. So you can take a break and you can find a nice shadow and just relax a bit, sleep a bit, and
Yeah, thank
enjoy
God.
the
The
landscape.
lizards take breaks too. Take breaks too.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
So and so you know pretty much all the lizards of the Mediterranean basin around. You have a favorite? What's your
Wow,
like
that's
the
a
one you
tough
saw in the field
one.
that you were like, wow, this is amazing to
Oh,
see
that's a
that one.
tough one. Well, I can go for two maybe if you
Oh,
allow me.
yeah, go for it.
One is Algerated Spingingeri, which is super
Yeah,
tiny. And that was super fun to sample because they're not impressive or anything. They're just black tiny things, but they're this big.
they're very pretty. I've seen them in Sardinia. They're wonderful.
Yeah, they're wonderful. But then, like I was mentioning before, that we use those fishing rods to catch
Mm,
lizards. So that is based on the weight of the lizard. And
yeah.
you need the lizard to have some weight at least. And those guys are so weightless and they would
Yeah.
die. So we developed a new system where you would throw, like with the fishing rod, we would throw the animal on the other people's chest and they would go like this and we would work on a team and I would throw it on Daniel and then he would do like this and catch the lizard without cutting the tail.
I think for most people that sounds like a nightmare, getting lizards thrown on
Well,
you.
it was fun. It was so much fun. And those guys were, I don't know, they were very interesting to sample.
Mhm.
And then the other one from my group, mine, they are mine. So we always talk like that, biologists. We are my animals, as if
Yeah,
we own
it's your group.
them. But like from the group that I've studied most, that are the wall lizards, the Podarcis genus, um, Podarcis taurica. They are
Taurica,
green
really?
and fluorescent and completely not wall lizards. So I think, the only exception from the genus I mean, they run in the grass, in the middle of the grass. They look like skinks or something. I don't know.
Really?
They're
Ah,
very pretty. They are super, yeah, green, intense green. But they are Podarcis. They are like, so they
yeah.
are funny combination. I don't know.
I've never seen those. I mean, I've seen the Fitzingery, but no, the
Yeah,
Tarifka,
they're
no, no.
fun. But then again, I mean, lizards are amazing. You could talk about so many different lizards. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no. You can
I
talk
mean,
to
the
me about
ones we
lizards.
have there
Yeah.
around the corner in Sibio in
In
Portugal.
Portugal,
Certas
yes.
Strawberry. I mean,
Yeah, and the biggest lizard of Europe, the ocellated lizard. Yes, very nice one too. Yeah, that was fun catching those with you. That was
yeah, they're fun. They're challenging. They're like they have big nails made, and yeah,
and a strong bite. And because they are so big, their flight distance is also very long. So if you approach even at sometimes 10 meters, they already run away. And
yeah, they run away. So you have to be you have to learn how to move in the field when you're catching lizards. It's challenging. It's interesting. It's a nice sport.
Any other strange animals that you've seen while out and about that you didn't expect? I mean, sometimes there's some animals that you're not looking for, but they are there.
Wow, I don't know. Because normally I've thought about this the other way around. Like when you have a search image for lizards, for example, you don't see, I don't know, vipers. Like one of my colleagues that I've worked quite a bit with lately, Fernando, he works with vipers and they are in the same places. We sample them in the same places, but you go to the field for vipers, you don't see lizards. You go for lizards, you don't see vipers. And you're in like, this is insane. So I had to get like, I was already quite experienced in herpetology and in field studies with reptiles, but I had to get trained again to see the vipers.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's funny.
Search image that you use.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, the little geckos. I mean, the geckos are amazing. I really like them because we're used that in the Mediterranean, we're used at seeing the ones that the Tarantola geckos that go to the houses a lot, or Dactylus geckos that go in other places. But then you have species, those Euleptes I was talking about that are endemic to Corsica and Sardinia, and they end
the leaf finger geckos. Yeah.
Those are amazing. They're really, really interesting, and they have this very thick tail, and they're chubby, and they do completely different. They have a completely different way of behaving, and you have to figure it out when you go to the field for the first time, and you haven't for the first time. I mean, to sample a specific animal. In some cases, you have to learn all over again and follow them until you figure out how they behave and what time. So these ones, for example, we thought they're geckos, they will be out at night. But then until it wasn't completely dark, so we normally go to the field in April, May, beginning of June, because of the weather conditions are optimal. But in May, you already have quite a big duration of the day, so it had to be completely dark before they started getting active, and we had to figure that out. So we had to wait, and then when they aren't. Why aren't they? What is happening? And then we figured out that okay, have a break. Go have a nice pizza. You are in Sardinia. Have a nice dinner. You will be up until 5 o'clock in the morning, so eat something, and then you start sampling.
That's more like sampling scorpions. Yeah, they don't come out until several hours after sundown. Everything has to be black. Oh, that's interesting because the Tarantola geckos that you mentioned, they can be active during the day in the winter. I mean, they're
exactly, and the Midactylus as well. I mean, they can
So
at dusk, those two at dusk, they're active already. So
well, for me, seeing the Euleptus when I was in Sardinia was also because I've only seen them in books, drawings and maybe one or two photographs, and then to see them in real life is always a thrill, right?
Yeah, they're so much fun. Yeah.
And in Morocco, you have the very nice day geckos, the Quiddenfeldzias.
Yeah, and the tiny little ones, the Trachyblepharus. Really small species
Trachyblepharus.
That's
Saurodactylus.
Saurodactylus. Thank you. Yes, I was mixing it up with the species of the Quiddenfeldzias. So those are really fun. I mean, and they're super colored, super. Those ones are super tricky for not breaking the tail when you catch them. That was super drama. Yeah, that was like for me, it was super difficult because it feels like they're so small and they're like fluffy. I don't know. They're like they have a different texture.
Yeah. They feel
and
very
their
fragile.
tails break off very easily. I mean, that was a bit I mean, I felt very invasive sampling those. I mean, at the end, we take a very small piece of tail for genetic studies, but that's different because you cut a really you minimize as much as possible and you just cut the tip of the tail. When
Yeah.
it breaks off, because they break quite a big piece, and it's
Yeah. I
sorry.
mean, it grows back, but it's still a drain on the animal, kind of. Yeah. You don't want to do that. And then you bring everything to the lab and you do genetics, and then you build your trees and see how they evolve, right?
I don't. People do.
Yeah, people do. Wait, your students
I
do.
use the phylogenies. I mean, phylogenies are fun to have. I don't like the lab work that much. I mean, I like
No.
the analytical part and the field work are my favorites. The lab, I mean, I like the lab experiments I do, which are normally about quantifying behavior or functional performance, seeing how the animals run, what temperatures they like, this kind of thing. But these are short experiments that are with the animals. The genetics lab, I don't like that so much.
No.
But
No,
luckily there are other people that do, so we can work together and it's on its own. So
well, not everybody likes complicated statistics, me included. So
we each have to be strong in something, and then we work together and
yeah,
make good teams. So that's
exactly.
it's all about.
So if you got to pick a lizard to see still, what would be on the top of the list?
Oh, there are so many. Come on, there are so many. I
You
would
have to go
really
more.
like to see Tachydramus. So I'm a lacertid.
Tachydramus. Okay.
I'm a lacertid freak, and I like this family a lot, and they're like well in all the Palearctic and Africa, etc. So the Tachydramus, I would really like to see those ones because I think
Yeah.
they must be really funky lacertids. They're very different from the rest, and they have those really long tails, and they live in those grassy environments. Well, some of them do. I mean, they're a very diverse genus, but
Yeah.
those ones I would like to see.
Yeah. Oh, I'm afraid to say I've seen them.
Yeah, well, I don't want to know. I traveled far more than me. I mean, I don't want to get into that conversation.
No. But they're lovely. Yeah. So of course, lacertids. You want to stick to the lacertids. I understand.
I like geckos a lot. Geckos. If I had to choose another family, or if I had infinite time to work with, I really like geckos. Geckos, I think, are, but also they are so emblematic, and they are in the whole planet. So there are many people working with them. With lacertids, there are less. I mean, so you get to do things, and
it's mostly Europe and a bit of North Africa, and yeah, a few exceptions here and there. Awesome. So, if people want to know more about your research and what you're doing, where should we send them?
Well, I mean, there is the phenotypic evolution group webpage that you're part of, and that would be a good place to start. But
Okay.
they search my very complicated name if you want to write it down, my surname.
I'll make a link to all these things. Yes.
Okay, so yeah, in the University of Barcelona, I have a personal webpage where you can see pictures of those very isolated Greek islands I was talking about.
Oh, great. Yeah. Always good to see.
So yeah.
Awesome. I will put links of everything, and people can look you up and see all the funky stuff you do, because it is really fascinating, and Antigoni is at the top of her game and doing awesome stuff. So I recommend following her anywhere you can. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for the invitation. This was so much fun to talk to you.
Yeah,
I hope
likewise.
it's inspiring to people. If people can see this and get inspired to go out and study lizards or any other animal for that respect, I think it could be.
And they should call you.
Have more of us around.
Yes, indeed. Well, I'll try to find more of us to interview. In the meantime, Antigoni, thank you very much, and talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thank you.